Aiden O'Brien is a footballer. I remember being at a game, I don't think which one it was. They all blended into each other after a while under the O'Neill Keane era. But it was definitely one of the latter ones where O'Neill was in a bit of trouble. And Aiden O'Brien played for Ireland, and Stephen Hunt was doing co-commentary for us. And I remember him just pointing out O'Brien and saying that he remembered O'Brien coming through at a club or trying to make it in the game around the time that Hunt was at the same club, and Hunt said he always kept an eye out for young Irish internationals coming through, and he was saying this guy's done so well to make it that maybe he wasn't so sure he was going to make it, so he's obviously worked incredibly hard in his game, and he was delighted to see him playing for Ireland.
Yeah.
That was why he always stuck in my head, because you know we were watching it with our arms folded, going, "Oh, another great. Let's see what this guy's going to do." And he's not up to much, yeah. And Hunt said, no, look, okay, he's not Ronaldo, but actually, for him to have made his career, he's done so well. And then you read this piece with David Sneyd, and
great piece.
You have that sense 10 times over. David Sneyd has a real habit of, in the world of football in particular, where it's hard to do anything different or to get access to interesting people. He's just on a really good run at the moment of doing
done some great stuff.
Some
he
clever
goes and
pieces.
Talks to people, and what he does really well, and it's not the first time, is he goes to them. He goes to them where they live or where their home place is, and he describes it and he tells you about it. And I think it's very hard for us sometimes to identify with people who are declaring for Ireland in any sport. We just hear, oh, they have an Irish granny or whatever it is, or relations. But we don't actually know where they're from, and we can't see it. This piece is really good. First, it's a great headline. First of all, straight out of Islington, which is a great headline. Aidan O'Brien talks knives, drugs, and the life of crime he managed to avoid thanks to family, friends, and football.
So right away, you're in.
You're in straight away. Great headline writer for whoever subbed it. It's a great piece. And he meets him at Holloway Road station, and he talks about just the difference in the gentrification of that area, plus what also exists in the area. And he has a great description of this area of North London. He talks about it. It's a mix of the gentrified. The movement studio offers ballet, yoga, and Pilates, and the master plays chipper, serving an all-day breakfast for £5. There are far greater divisions in this corner of North London than those who prefer a downward dog to a battered cod.
Yeah.
Islington is, after all, a district of extreme division.
Yeah, because I'd always thought Islington was posh. You know, Tony Blair had a mansion there, and Boris Johnson, and David makes that point. I didn't realise Islington, it's where the Arsenal, it's where the Emirates is as well.
It's where the Emirates is, yeah.
Lowest life expectancy in London.
Yeah.
A third of its children and over 40% of the elderly living in poverty. Highest number of serious mental health issues, as well as the highest levels of depression in England.
Yeah, shocking stuff.
So this is where he's from. So to give you a sense, so look, he picks up David Sneyd, they hop in his Mercedes 4x4, and there's a McDonald's drinks container down by the side, and O'Brien sort of smiles and say it was a treat after matches. So right away, as you said, he's in his environment and he's comfortable. But like, so the knife crime, this is what Aidan O'Brien says. Knife crime, man. Everyone had a knife. We'd be sitting here. So they're driving around Islington. We'd be sitting here. We'd turn around, and up there at the other end, there'd be 30 people coming towards us in hoodies. Some on bikes, just different gangs he's talking about. There'd be dogs. You've got to make a run for it. There are certain times when you just can't stand there and go, come on then, because they're just going to effing sort you out. It ain't fists you're not thinking. You're not thinking I might get a few bruises here. But I'll stand my ground and take it. He says, it's not that. It was, I could get stabbed, I could get killed here. You've got to be clever in what you do. He said, if you walked around on your own in certain areas and another group saw you, you were either, you'd either get chased, beaten up or stabbed. You couldn't really walk around on your own.
There's a terrible, terrible disease of knife crime in London at the moment. I've been reading articles on it. A lot of the Sunday magazines in England actually in recent months have written about the percentage of knife crimes. Just, it's horrendous. There's a gang culture in London, in parts of London, and obviously he grew up right in the middle of it, and he regards football as what saved him and stopped him getting involved. And he stops at one point, so he walks him around his whole area, which is lovely. You really get a feel for it. And then at one point he stops to talk to Donovan, a Jamaican guy who influenced him, who was one of the guys who helped him when he was younger. And they talk about a stabbing up in the Caledonian Road. And Sneyd says, you're a bit doubtful about it. And then you look at the London Evening Standard that evening, and it confirms a 17-year-old was stabbed to death for his bike. And so there's drugs, but the stabbing, the knife carrying seems to be just a real problem in London. And it's a great piece because he just comes across, first of all, as a really, really nice guy.
Does,
who, like so many kids in deprived areas, by virtue of good people that he met, whether it's family or friends or sport, you know, was lucky enough to stay on the right side. And there's a fantastic story about him buying a television for his grandfather when he was dying. It's just amazing. Yeah, it's a lovely piece.
It is nice. His granddad, Carrick-on-Suir, his grandmother is Dublin. So Donovan, that kind of good influence he bumps into, who tells him about the 17-year-old who's been stabbed, you know. It's funny, David's kind of there, obviously, his third wheel in the conversation, but Donovan says to him, "Are you still doing your thing with football?"
Yeah.
Like, this guy, part of the Millwall team that beat Everton on BBC.
Yeah, and he says it to him, you should have watched it on BBC. Yeah, you should have watched it on BBC.
15 million people watching.
Everton.
I want more from this piece. Like, I read this, and it's just fantastic.
Yeah.
I don't know the character involved. Already I'm drawn in. I'm drawn into everything about it. I want to know more about Donovan. This, to me, is a magazine piece screaming to be told.
Yeah.
It's 5,000 words. It's big, going into depth about the place, about the person, and about everything around him that's brought him to where he is today, because it's there.
Yeah.
It really is there.
I mean, along with Dennis Walsh on St. Ennis, for me, they're the two pieces in 6 months I'll remember from today.
It's a great piece,
They're really good.
He had a trial at Arsenal and he was told he was too slow.
I think that was Hunt's point, like this guy didn't have all the raw materials. But he scored the goal that got Millwall up to the Championship. He's now playing Championship football. He scored against Poland, and he said, I swear when I scored that goal against Poland, both my grandparents, who've since were passed away, they were both watching. Nobody can tell me they weren't. And is really just talking about his career now in terms of providing for his family. I can't afford not to be in this job. And that's what he's out to do. Is kind of, his mum still lives in a flat in the area. He's trying to get them out of Islington, you suspect.
But at the same time, it's like, you know, that awful tower death, the Grenfell Tower, you know. Again, that happened in a part of London that you had this image that was really, really rich, but it existed, coexisted side by side, and this area is the same. And as you say, it's the place that Emirates Stadium is as well. So I think it's a really interesting piece for anybody who's interested in soccer, and also that understanding where some of these people who declare for Ireland, where they come from, and that's influenced.
It's one of the things we miss a lot. We always, you know, why are the rugby team flavour of the month? Because, well, a lot of them live in Ireland, or we know them, we know their stories, they're seen all the time. And we do miss this bit of where these people outside the island come from. What makes them? What makes them go? I mean, he's saying here that the Irishness was never foisted upon him. It was just there. We don't get that. We do not. There's a fundamental part inside this that does not understand that, and it should be explained to us.
And Liam Miller recently did a great interview, and that was exactly his point as well, Andy, which was that, you know, it was never fake Irishness. We were Irish. We felt Irish, and he says the same thing. My mum had 4 sisters and 5 brothers. Must have had 40 cousins. When we went around the house, it was all Irish.
We are an emigrant nation. We have a diaspora that it's one of our great things we give to the world, and this is one of the times where we get something back through sport to the people who they put roots somewhere else, but the home, even though physically is somewhere else, the home is Irish. And I don't think we get that. And stories like this are good. They are great, and we need more of them. Yeah, no, it's brilliant. The sad thing is probably, you know, PR people and all the handlers would say, oh, don't be doing interviews, but actually the next time Aiden O'Brien plays for Ireland, now you know who he is and where he's come from. Absolutely, absolutely. It's what you want to read. So that is honestly, that is really, 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 really good. It's nothing as good as a piece, but there's a piece as a Josh Cullen, the Paul Rouse piece in Sunday Times today. Again, speaking to a guy. And he was a good mate of Declan Rice's, isn't that the one? And again, it just gives you some insight into it. But this is the piece to read, I think. It's outstanding.